Hello and welcome to the Internet Seriously. This week I'll be your host. Emily and Lucien are taking a much-deserved holiday, and I'm joined in the offices in the studio with the CTO of Oxford Information Labs, Mark Robertshaw, and Director of Engineering, Nathan Alan.
It's great to be here with you, Kieren, today. Thank you.
Yeah, likewise. Good to be here, Kieren.
So today we're going to have, as if we haven't spoken about it enough, an AI extravaganza. Not just about AI, although we will be covering that. We'll be covering the issue of AI coding, but also AI seems to be sort of affecting every part of society at the moment. AI governance, the United Nations recently had quite a big meeting in which AI governance was a huge part. AI regulation, the FTC in the United States has sued 5 companies for abusing AI and trying to rip off companies and or consumers. And then AI giants, OpenAI has had some pretty dramatic news, and that's all about the money that's coming towards AI. So that's going to be our show this week. So I'll go to you, Mark. You wanted to raise the issue of AI coding and how we use AI coding.
Absolutely. So over the last sort of few months and couple of years, we've seen a real proliferation in the use of AI for coding, both assisting coding and also generating coding as well, code generation. So we've seen a number of tools emerge on the market. One of the big ones being called Cursor, actually is a really big known code generation platform. Also simply using prompts such as ChatGPT and Gemini to ask the LLMs for code examples or even for fixing bugs with code. So there's been lots and lots of tooling generated over the last year or two.
So, I mean, most people have got used to the idea of ChatGPT and they find it a little bit extraordinary that this thing seems to be talking to them. In the coding world, is it similar? Is it similar levels? Like, what, this is much better than we thought it would be?
Yeah, I mean, I think that a lot of people, in the past would have used forums to try and understand where their code was going wrong or how they could improve their code, things like Stack Overflow. You would go there and you would find snippets of code that, you could put into your application and find solutions. And I think people are going to move towards asking these AI chatbots for assistance on understanding whether the code can be improved, and if they've got problems, they're probably more likely to go that way and ask a chatbot rather than the old traditional route of going to forums and things like that. So I think there is a bit of a shift going on there.
So I mean, you're writing coding all the time for the work that you do. Is there any actual code that you've put in the systems yet that is AI written?
So we've taken a somewhat more conservative approach to AI coding, I think for a number of reasons. So what we've found with code generation tools that we've used is that some of the code that's generated is people talk about hallucinations, is not quite production ready. Some of the code is good, but often the problem we have is that the AI machines are not good at software architecture, and therefore the code they'll write is maybe solving a particular problem quite well, but not taking account of the whole software system. So we haven't used the AI for generating production code for our systems, but we have used it sort of to inform our coding practices, and we can talk more about that if you like.
For sure, yeah. So I mean, how does that work? So you're not putting real code that the machine's created, but you're testing what you have, or you're getting AI to look at what you're doing, or how does that work in reality?
So I was thinking about this last night, and an example that I'll share with you now that I thought was quite pertinent to this was probably about 10 years ago or so. I had this little side hobby app that I created, and I put it on the App Store, and it was designed for you to take any recipe that you have and for it to calculate the nutritional values of that recipe.
Oh, a literal recipe, not a code.
Yeah,
okay.
No, a literal recipe. And so I spent a long time coding, breaking down, whatever recipe was given, pulling out the ingredients and extracting the weights and things, and then comparing that to a big database of food that I had, and all that kind of things to try and understand what the values were and how it, all came together. Now, instead of having to spend all that time coding and doing it myself, I can just shove that recipe into a chatbot and say, give me nutritional values for this recipe, and it will give it to me. So that's a slightly different way of looking at it, in that you could spend a long time coding for a specific use case, or you can just get a chatbot to just give you the results. So it's not necessarily generating code, but it's generating the results that you can then use within your application.
Yeah, and I mean, in the world that use AI more in, which is sort of words and summarizing, I find it's typically when you already know what you want, you know how to get there, and it's not that complicated, it's just going to be time consuming, and then you ask the machine to do it for you. Is it the same kind of feel?
Absolutely. I think one of the really good applications is if you want to solve a particular problem, whether you want help with an algorithm you're writing, asking, e.g. ChatGPT to give you a code sample for how to encode that algorithm is really useful. And even if you're struggling with certain features of a programming language, or one of my colleagues uses it a lot for database sort of querying, to ask the engine to give you an example of how to do a certain technique in a language is particularly useful. And that's kind of not actually writing production code, but it is using the benefit of the immediate knowledge you can get of and that programmatic knowledge that those LLMs can help you with.
So we've not got to the point yet where AI is teaching us things, it's just reminding us of other stuff, is that right?
I think it's a bit of both. I think sometimes, if there's bits that you don't yourself know yet, such as new algorithms or new techniques, then I think you can use the LLMs as an educational tool.
Right. I
guess the problem is being able to confirm that what you're seeing is correct, and that you're not getting sort of an inaccurate solution. This leads into some of the our discussions we have about the way that LLMs learn as well from code that we might send it as well, which is the next.
Yeah, so that's the worry. So, I mean, these machines are all learning from what you feed in. They put out what they feed in, and a lot of people seem to be using it to clean up their code. So it isn't the worry that if you're effectively feeding in buggy code, that you're creating an environment where the AI thinks that buggy code is the code world.
Yeah.
Is that right?
I mean, it's possible. These machines learn based on what they're fed, and so it's an interesting potential problem where it could give a result based on something that inappropriate that's been fed into it previously in the past.
Yeah. Can you give an example, theoretical or not, of if you put in buggy code? Number one, well, we'll come back to how do you avoid putting in buggy code. If you put in buggy code, what kind of things would happen or could happen?
So I guess the interesting point there is that we know that all the LLMs they've confirmed they do use data that receive the prompts for future training of their algorithms. So it's clear that all the input is then passed back through. So the question is, have they got enough filtering on their side to determine that somebody supplied an example code and said, fix this for me, and therefore they note as part of their training that was an inaccurate code? I'm not convinced that it's that clear. So the risk would be that if many developers across the world are feeding incorrect code and saying fix this, actually over time the LLMs will then be infected with incorrect code. And you could quite easily have, for example, a duff algorithm being generated for a maths problem.
Yeah. Because can you tell AI, by the way, this stuff I'm giving you is garbage? Is it able to store that, or does it just become part of its mind?
And I think that is the interesting question, and I think that's down to the way that the different providers encode their sort of rules when they do the training of models. And right. I think we're in an environment now where we're trusting that OpenAI, that Google, the big players are doing something with that. I mean, they've clearly put a lot of work into their models. They've clearly, they're like magic black boxes from technical people's point of views. They're amazing. So we would assume there's lots of work put into for those kind of rules, but we can't be certain that it's 100% foolproof. And we have seen inaccurate and hallucination responses from these LLMs in many different...
That's definitely feeding into why we've got so much stuff about governance coming up. But one big question I have for you is do you have plans to produce AI code and stick it into your working systems?
Well, I would probably say at the moment, probably not. But however, having said that, I have, asked it to generate code, not for work, but just for playing around. Yeah. And there was one particular example where I asked it to basically generate a website for me. I wanted to create something, I think maybe for my wife. I said, create a boilerplate template. I want you to, circulate the images on the header, every 3 seconds or whatever. And it done a really nice job. It produced a whole bunch of HTML, a whole bunch of JavaScript, and it worked. Obviously, being a developer myself, I could see that within the code there were some less than ideal scenarios that they had included. And so I then referred back to the chat and I said, instead of doing it this way, can you do it this way? And it did. It produced the code to and changed the way that it done things based on the knowledge that I have. So I think, having that ability to be able to look at it and say, okay, yeah, you've done a nice job here, but, this is probably less optimal. Can you, change it so that it doesn't do that? It's done a pretty good job on that.
I have a question for you. Say you put together a piece of code and it's mostly written by AI, and you test it in the system, Mark comes to you and says, terrific job, this is great. Do you then say, actually, AI did it? Or do you say, thank you very much, and what's my annual bonus?
Wow, yeah, we'll see how big the bonus is. No, I'm just kidding. I think, I personally, I would be uncomfortable with, having artificially, generated code within the systems that I'm responsible for. And at the minute, I don't feel like I necessarily need to do that. Right. But I go there with questions. I go there with, trying to increase my understanding and, try and do a bit of problem solving in different areas. So at the minute, it's not full blown, give me some code, I'm going to stick it straight in the system, but it's, figuring out problems and solutions and things. It's good for that. And
I have probably a slightly more relaxed view about using AI for sort of component-based coding. I think back to one of my points earlier on, one of the strengths of our methodology towards coding as a company is that we have a strong emphasis on architecture and consistent architecture. And that means that whenever you write components, you write them to a certain standard, a certain way of writing them. And, a large language model is not going to know those rules. So they're never going to write code quite to the standards that we would want consistently across our system. But if you were to ask, for example, ChatGPT to write you a class that does a certain thing, it's a component level thing, and you were then to take it as a starting point, clean it up, make a few changes, but it saved you some time, I'm all in favour of that. I think, using the best tool for the job. And I think another point, if I may, is that we, one of the practices that we use in our company is test-driven development. So one of the things that I would say is that if you're going to use AI for the generation of code, then you as a human should write the tests to back that AI code. So you've actually gone through, and also as well as code reviewing what's been generated, you actually write tests that confirm the code is doing the correct thing.
Human testing.
To avoid
not AI testing, exactly. So that AIs don't test their own code.
Exactly. I mean, we've also looked the other way around at AI using AI for testing our code, and that's very interesting. We haven't had the best success with it yet. We don't think that the frameworks are mature enough to do it well, but that is exciting to me in terms of having AI running through all of the rote different permutation testing which humans often miss, and looking at all the edge cases for you.
Yeah, well, we're talking about how good is AI. We have an AI music challenge coming up, so we'll run through that, and then if you're listening to this, you should run through it as well. Yeah. But first, we're going to shift to our Room 101. So Mark, could you?
Yes. So Kieren, time for Room 101. So, Kieren, perhaps you could tell us today what your Room 101 theme is.
My Room 101 is perfect product scam websites. And that's because I have been caught out again, not for the first time, by a website that got me to buy products which I'm pretty confident don't exist. And that's because I just bought a new house. And in this case, I wanted some new lights for the kitchen. I had some horrible lights. I was looking for a specific thing, LED lights for the kitchen of a certain size. So I type it into Google, and I found this incredible, lovely website that I won't name just in case it's real, but I'm pretty confident it's not. And it was everything I wanted, totally legit or seemingly legit. I've bought 3 lights. They sent me an email thanking me for my order. Then I got an email the next day, the CEO thanking me for being part of the family. and it's been 4 days. And I even got an email with tracking. Your tracking data will be here that uses shop, which is legit. And I thought, where are these lights? Literally this morning. And I look and there's no tracking information. There's no feedback. And I thought, oh no, I've been scammed again. And so I look on Trustpilot, which is the go-to, which I really should do before I buy anything. And then Trustpilot is full of 1-star reviews. This is a scam. This is a Chinese company. If they send you it, it'll be garbage. So I've been ripped off again. And I can't remember what happened. Last time my wife bought some PJs that never turned up. We nearly got scammed trying to buy a wooden thing, which was exactly the right size that we wanted. And the only way, we need to do some kind of guide for helping people. But my personal guide is, if it's a little bit too much of a good price and it's exactly what you want, sadly, it's probably a scam.
Probably too good to be true.
Absolutely. I think one of the things is that China have an advantage of being so large and with so many people working out there that it somehow seems feasible that somebody would be selling exactly what you want.
Yeah.
In exactly the size that you want, and it actually feels like that's possible. And I think we've all had similar experiences. I mean, I had one recently where I purchased a car part from a company that was based in China, and it was exact match for my car. It was confirmed to be the right model and size. It did arrive, but it was about a third of the size it needed to be. It was a scaled down model, and my mechanics said they could know where they could fit that. So I think there is a sort of real problem with, and I would ask you, Kieren, the question is, are these, in every case, are they scams, or are they simply misrepresentations and missales? And where's the line there, do you think?
I wish I knew. The thing that worries me is that I mock my wife for sort of coming up with things that she wants to exist.
Yeah.
And then she asked me to go and find them for her. But that the internet is providing that for us. I think, and I also think some of it is so well put together that there are people, or maybe it's AI hallucinating this.
Yeah.
And it's like, that's perfect.
Yeah.
That's exactly what I want. Yeah. It's just that no one has actually made it, and they won't ship it to you because they've never made it. But they will take your money and then deal with the financial hassle of you trying to scrape it back again.
And on that point, perhaps there are some providers that are using AI to generate fake products based upon your searches, and then shipping you something that's approximate. They've got set items they're shipping and hoping that it'll be good enough.
It's just cruel, because the internet opened up this world. We could go and buy stuff that only professionals could ever get, and now they're offering us stuff that is perfect but doesn't exist.
Yeah. Have you had any problems with this, Nathan?
So the most recent one I can think of is some sunglasses that I purchased online, and they weren't for me. They were for somebody else, but they didn't like the way they looked when they tried them on, and so I tried to return them, and then that's a whole massive problem in itself. They were more than happy to give me a refund on some of the money that I had spent, but they were like, well, if you want a full refund, you're gonna have to send it back, and we're based in China, and it's going to take weeks to get to us, and it may not get to us, and so you may not get your refund back. So in the end, I just said, fine, I'll keep them, and you can give me a partial refund. So yeah, that's a problem that I've encountered.
So I think we can get that. That's agreed. Room 101.
Absolutely.
Perfect product scam websites.
Yes, very good.
Okay, well, and with that, I think we'll move over to this AI music challenge. I'll rely on the people behind the scenes to run us through, but my understanding is we have 5 clips of music, some of which is real artists, some of which has been created by AI, and we were joking a few weeks ago that we can tell, patting ourselves on the back about how great we are at telling. So we're going to run 5 clips, and then we're going to write down whether we think they are a real artist, a real human being that's produced them, or whether they are AI. And then we will see how right or wrong we are.
Yeah.
So if you're ready behind the scenes, let's run it through. Oh, okay. Number 1. Okay, number 3.
But the time is we don't keep track, we don't keep an eye on it. Divide this love between us, cut it with a knife in it. I'll reach full potential, I met you, I wanna let you in. Take it to the ocean.
Last one.
Lifed up my life with pride. In my life, not everything goes right. But the more we struggle, the stronger we fight.
Oh,
that was pretty
tough
tricky.
ones, those, weren't they?
now I don't know about you. I'm worried about insulting.
I know. Yes.
Yeah.
Okay, I really don't know about that. Okay, so let's run them through again, and then we'll say what we thought, whether they were real or whether they're AI. First one again. Right, so start with you, Mark. What did you put that down
I
as?
thought that was AI, actually.
I went for real.
I went for real too. What's the answer?
The answer. The answer
Oh, the voice of God is here.
is that was real.
All right.
Oh,
Why do we think it was real?
So it started off and I thought it was AI, but then the singing felt like it was more real than fake.
It fit with the beat. It kind of moved
Yeah.
with the beat. That's
Yeah.
what did
the
it for
singing
me.
is the key, isn't it? Generally to these.
Yeah, I think so. All right, let's try. Okay, so that's not bad. Okay, second
Good
one.
start.
All right, we'll start with you, Nathan. What do you think?
I went for AI on this one.
I went for AI as well.
And I went for real. I did cross out. I crossed out AI. I went for real. So I
Okay.
hope I'm.
Voice of God. What was the answer?
The answer. It was AI.
All right.
Oh, you guys.
2-2.
What was
I-
it about? It
I
felt
couldn't-
just very generic
Yeah,
to me.
it did. I couldn't. There wasn't anything specific. I quite struggled with that one, but it was more of a. Yeah, I'll just go with AI.
Just I just thought, oh, this is classic.
Just-
This is if I press the bossa nova button.
Yeah.
This is. All right, let's move on to number 3.
I'll walk the path you've laid, guided by the light above. I feel the light of grace.
Now I've put AI, but I fear that this is like number 2 in the chart right now.
I put AI as well. And I think because the voice was very, very clipped, and there was something about the voice that was off to me. Since that one.
And I also went AI.
Yeah.
I wasn't convinced by that
All
one.
right,
Yeah.
have we all got it right?
All of you are correct.
Oh,
It was AI.
we are identifying. Oh, thank goodness.
that was
This is
an
making
easy
me
one.
feel a
That was
lot
good, yeah.
better about ourselves. Okay, number 4.
But the time is we don't keep track, we don't keep an eye on it. Divide this love between us, cut it with a knife in it. I'll reach full potential, I met you, I wanna let you in. Take it to the ocean.
All right, Mark, what do you think?
So I put real partly because I think actually AI rap is quite hard to pull off well, but I'm slightly regretting hearing it second time because I didn't hear much breathing in that, in
Yeah.
that one. So we'll see.
I
Both
also
real.
went real.
Yeah.
Because I feel like it sounds like someone who I've heard on the radio recently.
Right.
But it could be AI, and it could just be someone's asked to create a song in the style of someone else. So
Yeah, I was on the edge and I put real because it just felt like there was a person behind it.
yeah.
Hopefully, so we all put real. What's the real answer?
You are all correct.
Oh,
Yes.
A real
all right.
piece of music.
Now, before you put, I'm going to have to decide on the last one because I've literally put R/AI. So I'm going to have to decide. Play it. Here we go. Last one.
Lifed up my life with pride. In my life, not everything goes right. But the more we struggle, the stronger we fight.
All right, Nathan, what do you think?
I went AI on this one, and again, I was really struggling, but I feel like it might be a bit artificial intelligence created, if that's the real thing.
Yeah, I've put real, but I think the lyrics are so bland. It might be AI.
Yeah, I've also gone with real partly because of the voice engineering was very very good if it was AI. But yeah, it could go either way. It's a tricky one.
All right, so voice of God.
The answer, only one of you got it right, and that was Nathan.
It was AI?
Hey.
It was AI generated.
And for the record, that was a clean sweep. 5
Yeah,
for
that
5.
was.
You did
5 out of
4 out of
5. Well done.
4 out of 5.
I do
I've got
have the
2.
scores.
Yeah.
Go
I
on.
do have the scores. So, in last place, Mark with 2 points. And then Kieren with 4 points. And then Nathan, you are the winner of this challenge.
Well done.
Well done.
Hey.
So, I think we can say
What do I win? What do I win? Some free AI.
a recording contract. I think we can say that AI is still not, we can still tell the difference, but I tell you, I'm worried.
Yeah,
We
I
do
mean-
this in a year's time, I'm not sure.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah.
It'll be very hard to tell in the very near future.
Oh my goodness. Right, okay, so that was fun.
That was good.
Anyone listening, I hope you played along as well. We're going to move on to the other aspects of AI, and that is AI governance, AI regulation, AI giants. Now, it's sort of more of a news item, really. At the United Nations last week, they had a summit for the future, and they produced a document called Global Digital Compact, and they looked at AI governance. And there, everyone is aware that this is a very big issue, as we were talking about now. And so they were talking about setting up a global AI fund in order to pay for, developing nations so that there isn't a bigger digital gap. And they were talking about setting up structures that will make sure there's sufficient transparency and accountability. So if the UN seems to be moving much faster than it usually does, which I think is an indication of quite how worried people are about the impact that AI is going to have on this world. And then tied in with that, both the regulation and the giants, they're right to be worried because the FT, well, actually, no, I'll go with OpenAI. OpenAI, who everybody knows because it was ChatGPT, it is going through yet more governance, although that's sort of a sad word for it, repercussions. It's losing its CTO, it's losing another 3 key execs, and it's losing them over the CEO, Sam Altman, is going to move, or is planning to move it to a for-profit company.
Right.
Famously, it was set up as a non-profit company, and the idea being that it wouldn't cause any harm. But there's so much money in this now, so much money, and apparently they're going to try and value themselves at $150 billion and pull in more money. And so the money is talking, the people are walking, and it seems that the money is winning, which is a little bit worrying. And if you look at the biggest problem with the move to a for-profit model is you will lose the very transparency and accountability that the UN has just said needs to be included, because it's going to be massive financial reward if you don't tell people what's going on and everybody uses your systems, which people are using systems. So that's a little bit worrying. And on the flip side, as we were talking about with these sort of scam websites and reviews, the FTC has sued 5 companies who you won't have heard of for doing exactly, well, not exactly, but what you were outlining, which was they were saying, we'll build you, using AI, we'll build you e-commerce websites.
Yeah.
And so a bunch of other companies said, oh, great. And they bought inventory and they set up their systems and they waited for this company to provide them with these wonderful AI-created websites, and they just sort of never really turned up. And then another one was they were producing literally tens of thousands of reviews. And the interesting thing was it was for really obscure stuff like building materials and really obscure products. And then they were flooding them with fake AI reviews. So so the FTC's clamped down on it, but how it's going to be whack-a-mole, I think. I mean, I know they're trying to signal to the world they're going to clamp down on this stuff, but if there's 8,000 companies every year that does this,
Yeah.
how are you going to approach it?
It's going to be hard. And I was reading an article this morning just going kind of circling back to the governance kind of aspect, and I guess it kind of ties in with the game that we played as well, where you're trying to identify what has been generated by AI. And the article that I read this morning was around the Chinese they're trying to put into law that anything that's generated by AI has to be watermarked, and they're going to be quite firm on this, in the sense that there'll need to be a watermark for images. And the thought process is, at least from what I read this morning, that for audio clips that have been AI generated, there'll be a little kind of Morse code to indicate that it's been AI generated as well as the watermark for audio clips. So we may not be able to do this in the future because it'll all be watermarked and we'll be able to tell straight away. But I think understanding and knowing when something has been AI generated will play a big part in us being able to decipher what is real and what is fake and what's a scam.
It's going to be hard to
true.
enforce. It's going to require heavy enforcement. Yeah.
Absolutely. I think here in the Europe zone, the EU AI Act has been very helpful in kind of determining that as well. I think in terms of the different levels of responsibility depending on how much you're doing as an entity with AI and your function. And I think we're talking about the watermarking. It is now becoming, an absolute requirement to stipulate when you are interacting with something that's AI rather than with a real person. So you now have to be that sense of watermarking or marking, systems such as chat systems to make sure that it's clear that the consumer is interacting not with a real person.
Yeah.
But I think your point about reviews is really interesting because, I think for a while now we've been suspicious of review sites anyway. We've been thinking, well, maybe they've been heavily loaded by people who work for the company writing good reviews. Now we've got to contend with the fact, are half the reviews we're reading even real? Are they just being generated by bots and by fake, impersonation, crawlers and that kind of thing? So it's very hard now to see the wood for the trees in terms of what's genuine content.
Yeah, well, My Room 101, I looked up this company that suddenly occurred to me this morning. Oh no, it's another scam website on Trustpilot. And it was a lot of 1-star reviews, but in amongst it is a bunch of 5-star reviews. Yeah. So my wife, who has been watching this more than me, was saying, well, yeah, but look at the 5-star reviews carefully. They often sound a bit weird.
Yes. Yeah.
And there's always like a level of anger in the 1-star, which seems real.
Yeah.
And there's always a level of overpraise. Like no one gets that excited about a lamp. You know what I mean? So now we're having to go through layers upon layers of figuring out what's real or what's not real.
You almost need those kind of 2 and 3 and 4-star reviews to be there.
Yes.
Because if it's just 5 and 1s, then it's it's very
hopeless.
The magic is the 2-star review.
Yeah.
Because that's someone who's really quite annoyed, but just can't bring. It's still quite reasonable.
Yes.
I'm not giving them 1-star because it wasn't that bad.
I did get it in the end. But,
Yeah, the 2-star review is where is the sweet spot. But now I've said that AI will listen to this and say 2-star reviews. That's how to do it.
Well, hopefully our human intellect will still prevail in terms of being able to make these differentiations for some time, but it's going to become harder. And as people start, more and more gaming goes on with these systems.
So talking of that, literally segues into the guilty pleasure, which again is this week I get the guilty pleasure. So Nathan.
Yes, Kieren, tell us your online guilty pleasure.
My online guilty pleasure is finding and reading the 1-star reviews in otherwise loved products. And so there's nothing more, and I find myself doing it if I'm looking for something typically on Amazon and it's really well reviewed. It's 4.8 or 4.7 and I think, what's the 1 stars on these? And usually there's a little bit of drama. There's usually a whole story behind it that someone spills out for you. And you go down that 1-star and, Mavis in Basingstoke has had this nightmare with this. Or Dave in Huddersfield is just having a bad day. And it's just, there's a mini drama in these otherwise, thousands of people love this product, except something's gone horribly wrong once. And I love reading about it. It's a guilty pleasure.
That is a good one.
And it's kind of that judgment call, isn't it? And I've done it myself, where you look at these things and it's like, as you say, 4.8, and you think, 1 or 2 people are saying that it was faulty or it didn't, if it's an electric device, for example, it didn't crash or something, and you're thinking, well, it's probably an edge case, it might not be, but you're never quite sure, are you? It gives you that level of sort of discomfort, which is interesting.
It is weird, isn't it? And also, would you trust a perfect 5 score on something?
No. I don't think I would. It's hard to. It's hard.
But then
to,
even
to trust that,
like for example, Airbnb, if it's 4.9. And you go, oh, fantastic, but I wonder what went wrong. And then when you read it, and someone only has to say, there was a dead mouse, and it immediately puts you off.
Yes.
Even though everyone else said this is the most fabulous thing in the world.
I realise this is the wrong segment, but I would like to throw in the Room 101 is reviews that don't relate to the product that you're.
Oh, we're back in the.
Yeah,
they put the lights on. Double Room 101. This is unprecedented.
We're talking about 1-star reviews, and what really gets me is when I'm reading reviews, and it's nothing to do with the product. Like they gave it a 1-star review because the delivery man was obnoxious or something, and it's like, well, that's got nothing to do with the product.
Yeah,
like that doesn't affect how it works, and I want to know if it does what it says it does.
Yes.
I don't care what the delivery man did.
I think we'll take it. I think we're in. That's double Room 101.
Double whammy.
We're creating problems now. We're just going to have a Room 101 show. All right, so thank you very much. We covered AI in all its multiple aspects, including AI coding and the advantages and disadvantages. What is going on with AI, and then the fact that we are upside down and we're not sure what's real or not real. We love products on the internet when they turn up. We hate it when they don't, and we have to go and claw back our money. So thank you very much. That was the Internet Seriously, and see you next week.